What's up, everybody? Ryan Thomas live on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast, bringing you another edition of my passion. That's what I'm going to call this, my passion. I have really enjoyed the last almost 4 years. It is unfathomable to me that I've been doing this for almost 4 years. To be quite honest, you know, there's certain moments in sports where I talk about them on this podcast. I get reactions from so many people, positive, negative, agree, disagree. And if there was one guy that I could hear his opinion, his take on my takes on this podcast, it would be my grandfather. And he was somebody that really supported me in every walk of my life, whether I decided to play one sport over the other, or not like in the school I went to, or any situation that I found myself in. If there was a bully when I was a kid that I wanted to punch in the face but didn't want my parents to get mad at me if I got into a fight, he was the grandpa that was like, punch that kid in the face, it is what it is, just defend yourself. It'll be all right. He was a once in a lifetime person, and his passion as a sports fan was the Buffalo Bills, was the Boston Red Sox, was the Buffalo Sabres. And those three teams have been sewn into the fabric of my life ever since I was born. And many people, knowing that I am a New York native, that I am a Western New Yorker, they ask me, why are you a Boston Red Sox fan? You live in New York, you live in Buffalo, you should be a Yankees fan, or even a Cleveland fan, or maybe even a Toronto fan, being that, the Bisons, the Buffalo Bisons, are the AAA team of the Toronto Blue Jays. No. My allegiance to the Red Sox lies solely in me, within me, lives through me from him. And it chokes me up when I think of that. It really does. And I say that because I cared about him a lot. He cared about me a lot. And I know he's looking down on me right now and is saying, wow, he's living his dream. He's doing everything he said he was going to do, and I'm proud of him. I hope he's saying that. I really do. I think he is, but in the midst of that emotional stuff that I just dove into, the Boston Red Sox are always a topic that are always on my mind, because that was the team that we would watch. We got to celebrate the 2004 World Series together. We got to celebrate the 2007 World Series together. And I realized that in the short window of 04 to 07, shortly after that, he passed away in 2008, June of 2008. And he hasn't had the blessings of seeing the 2013 World Series or the 2018 World Series, arguably the greatest Boston Red Sox team of all time. I've had the blessing of seeing those two World Series championships. So I have seen as many World Series championships with him as I have seen without him. And it was tough for me. That was the toughest part of 2013, was knowing that he wasn't there to see that. 2018, I'll tell you, I was sitting in my man cave upstairs in my house watching 2018 play out like it did. I celebrated, I jumped for joy, and then I just burst into tears. Happy tears, but tears that, hey, if he was still here, I'd be watching this with him. We'd probably be hugging, we'd be high-fiving, we'd be laughing, smiling, and there's just a lot of moments throughout this life, throughout this journey, that I have missed his presence. And even podcasts like this where I'm talking about his favorite baseball team, my favorite baseball team, because of him. It wouldn't feel right to not bring him up to the people that listen to this podcast and the people that know me or have had that I've had the privilege of meeting over the last 4 years. He was somebody that was a really rare person. And with today's news of the Boston Red Sox going down this path, deciding that enough was enough with Dave Dombrowski, the president of baseball operations the last few seasons for Boston, last 5-6 years, Dave Dombrowski delivered winning to this organization. No matter how you want to slice it, the current state of the Red Sox is not that great, obviously. But Dave Dombrowski delivered AL East titles and a World Series championship. And I just touched on it briefly, but that 2018 team last season is one of the greatest teams I've ever seen in any sport or in baseball or in Red Sox history. That 2018 team was so dominant. They won so many games. They dominated the entire league over the course of the whole season. That does not happen in baseball. That is really rare. You haven't seen that really since the late 1990s with the New York Yankees, 96, 97, 98. The mid to late 90s, you didn't really see that a lot since then. Boston has dominated the AL in the post-2004 generation. And they've also dominated the NFL with the New England Patriots. They've had success in the NBA. They've had success in the NHL. Boston has slowly but surely actually become, quote-unquote, title town these last 15 years. And the Red Sox are the biggest part of that because you could have the success that the New England Patriots have had. You could have the success that the Boston Celtics have had. You could have the success that the Boston Bruins have had. The Red Sox are the lifeblood of the city of Boston. They are the livelihood of that city, no matter what. That is the team that everybody there tunes in to watch, that everybody talks about on the street, that everybody wants to see play at Fenway Park. It has always been that way. It'll always be that way, no matter who's on the Patriots, no matter who's on the Celtics, no matter who's on the Bruins. Boston is Red Sox City. So this news, obviously, I can only guess what shockwaves this news sent through the city of Boston. It's not shockwaves necessarily that the Bostonians out there are shocked that Dave Dombrowski was fired. It's not shockwaves that, they're mad or anything like that. It's shockwaves that they did it. It's shockwaves that we're one season removed from arguably the greatest Red Sox team in club history, which amounts to over 100 years of baseball. And the architect that put that team together was canned a year after that, less than a year after that championship victory. Why? Well, I have some answers. Boston Red Sox in 2019 have the highest payroll in all of baseball. Not the New York Yankees, not the Los Angeles Dodgers, not the Chicago Cubs. The Boston Red Sox have the highest payroll in the major leagues. And their farm system, AAA, AA, single A, ranks in the bottom 3 right now. So you have the complete opposite of what you want to have. Ideally, as a baseball team, you want to have a deep system of minor league talent. Obviously, talented enough major league players that can carry the load, whether they're young or older. And you want your team to be ready in phases. Phase 1 is the talent phase. Phase 2 is the post-talent phase, because you know that some of that talent will be walking out the door. With winning comes bigger deals. With bigger deals comes bigger decisions. who to keep and who not to keep. With winning also comes more winning in some cases, because you attract those names that want to wear that uniform. That is the Yankees effect. That is the Red Sox effect. That is the Cubs effect. That is the Dodgers effect. That is the Houston Astros effect. That is the Cleveland Indians effect. There has actually been players throughout these last few years that have really wanted to just go to that team, just to be a part of that team with those players. Even the Atlanta Braves as of late. So the Red Sox are in a very tough position because here they are, world champs of 2018. 2019, they are 17 and a half games back of the AL East title, which is going to be won by the New York Yankees. I don't think that's a stretch to at least give the Yankees that due. But they have the highest payroll. So obviously, along the way, for as many times as Dave Dombrowski went right in paying the money that he paid out, there were times where he went wrong. And even the times where he went right that resulted in these World Series titles were also times where he went wrong. You can't tell me that David Price was worth every penny just based off of one World Series title. Granted, it's one World Series title. A World Series in baseball is so crucial, so massive for your organization. It stands the test of time. You're etched in history forever as champions because baseball is such a historic game. One more World Series title for the city of Boston, for the Red Sox, went 86 years without one. I'm not discounting that at all. Obviously, I'm a Red Sox fan. That was one of the best seasons of Red Sox baseball I've ever lived to see. And it may be the best ever. We don't know that. I'm hoping I got, 70 years ahead of me of watching Red Sox baseball, plenty more titles to be seen. But one thing I do know that in my 27 years of being on this earth, the Boston Red Sox have the most important offseason in my fanhood as a Red Sox fan this offseason, 2019, not 2004's offseason, not 2007's offseason, not 2013's offseason. This offseason for the Boston Red Sox, the decisions that they choose to make or not to make will dictate the pace of the next decade for this franchise. And that really says a lot. That really shows you just how important these decisions that they make or don't make really are. Because the Red Sox didn't win 2013 and 2018 with the same exact squad. Actually, quite the opposite. The squad was completely different. The only returning player from that 2013 squad on the 2018 squad is Xander Bogaerts, who is locked and loaded with the Boston Red Sox for the next 7 to 10 years. So that guy's not going anywhere. He's the best shortstop arguably in the game. Definitely the best shortstop, in my opinion, in the AL. I don't think I'm overestimating anything by saying that. Being biased, the guy is a superstar. He was one of the few bright spots on this 2019 Boston Red Sox roster, along with guys like Rafael Devers, guys like Andrew Benintendi, guys like Mookie Betts. Mookie Betts. The biggest decision that this team will have to make is whether Mookie Betts will remain a Boston Red Sox. Now, I can only speculate on what I would do if I was the general manager of the Boston Red Sox. What direction would I go in if I was the general manager of the Boston Red Sox? I'll tell you this. I'm a big fan of Moneyball. I'm a big fan of the movie. I'm a big fan of the book. There's a scene in the movie where Jonah Hill's character describes the worth of Johnny Damon. He says, is Johnny Damon worth $8.5 million? No, what I see is an anomaly an imperfect science to the game. That there's players out there that are mocked for their looks, mocked for how they run, mocked for certain things, when really, production-wise, they are just as good as that player. There's no player that's worth $400 million. There's no player that is worth $300 million. There's no player that's worth $320 million. I'm not taking shots at Mike Trout by saying that. I'm not taking shots at Manny Machado by saying that. I'm not taking shots at Bryce Harper by saying that. But there isn't. Did Bryce Harper produce to the level of a $330 million player? No. Did Manny Machado produce to the level of the money that he made? No. Did the greatest player of his generation, Mike Trout, play to the level of his money? No. He did not. Last and certainly not least, did Mookie Betts play to the level of the contract that he is demanding? No, he did not. In a contract year. So if I'm the GM and I have this big name that you really wonder if he's going to stick around or not, he's named his price. It's probably in excess of $300 million. We'll just assume that. We don't know the exact number, but I'm definitely assuming it's more than 300. I think that's the benchmark number that the market has kind of dictated over the last year and a half with those three signings and more to come. Is Mookie Betts worth that? I don't think he is. When you have a team that already is the highest payroll. Now, if you move some payroll off the books, move David Price, move out of Rick Porcello's contract because he'll be a free agent. That'll bring some money back in. JD Martinez and Mookie Betts cannot be on this team next year at the same time. One of them's going to stay. One of them's going to go. I think one of them is a free agent. We know that. We know that the other one has an opt-out in his contract. I think JD will opt out. I think he sees that the Red Sox are in a state of transition, and that's okay. I'd rather be in a state of transition than thinking I'm something that I'm not. Knowing I'm something that I'm not. If there's one team that knows that they are not World Series contenders right now, it is the Boston Red Sox, because they just won the World Series only to be down 17 games here in early September, mid-September, to the New York Yankees. Whereas right now, you're always comparing yourself to your arch rival, especially when it's the greatest rivalry in all of sports. With the Red Sox and Yankees, the Red Sox are always comparing themselves to the Yankees. The Yankees are always comparing themselves to the Red Sox. It will go on until the end of time. When this earth finally explodes from all the people polluting it, yes, I do believe in that. At some point, when that does happen, I'll be long gone, hopefully, by the time that happens. The Red Sox and Yankees will still be comparing each other. And the Yankees right now, for as many games as they've won, they did not acknowledge the true weakness of the team. They went out and got Edwin Encarnacion, who was not the weakness of their team. They went out and avoided bringing in more starting pitching, which is what they really needed, and it's going to cost them. If it doesn't, and I'm wrong, me and Nick Parisi have a bet. Opening day 2020, I'll wear a New York Yankees hat. Opening day 2020, if the Yankees don't win the World Series, Nick Parisi is wearing a Boston Red Sox hat. Not a Dodgers, not an Astros. He is wearing a Red Sox hat, because that would be the team that is the true champs of 2018. The team that did finish the job. The team that did beat the Yankees in 5 games, the defending World Series Astros from 2017 in 6 games, and did beat the deepest team in all of baseball, the team that'll probably be in their 3rd straight World Series appearance this year, the LA Dodgers. So the Yankees got a lot to prove to me. A lot to prove. I don't care if they win 108 games like Boston did. I don't care. They have a lot to prove to me. They still do. Finish the job. All the stuff about the injuries, all the stuff about, Gio Urshela, Luke Voigt, this guy stepped up. Who's this guy? That only gets me through so long. The cream of the crop rises to the top. I think the two best teams in baseball overall are the Houston Astros and the LA Dodgers, and that's how I've said it since the offseason. Since the trade deadline. You can go back, you can check it out. I did not think the Red Sox would be in the World Series this year. I hoped they would be, but they were not, and that's okay. They don't have to win it every single year. This isn't the 1920s. This isn't the 1930s. This is the 2010s. We're at the end of it, but no team has dominated baseball since 2004 like the Boston Red Sox have. Giants have won a few. The Red Sox have been dominating. They've been winning a lot of games. But for as many times as the Red Sox have dominated, they have also faltered. This is another change post-Theo Epstein. Theo Epstein dreamed of being the VP of baseball, or the president of baseball operations for the Boston Red Sox for a long time. Dreamed of it. It got to a point where the job was such a big dream, he accomplished everything that he accomplished, and he was just burned out. He was done. He needed a new challenge. Now he's at a point where he's burned out with the Cubs. Far sooner than he was with the Red Sox. That just shows you the passion that he had for the Boston Red Sox. Would it be nice to bring that guy back? You bet your butt it would. Will he come back? I highly doubt it. I'm just throwing that out there that I would approve of it. Romero is an executive in their front office that has been around since 2006, worked under Charrington, who replaced Theo Epstein, worked under Theo Epstein, obviously, as well. Highly respected guy, highly respected baseball scout who has internal knowledge of the international market, which, if you haven't noticed, the international market has really helped baseball explode in Cuba, in the Dominican. These acquisitions that most of these teams have made have paid major dividends for the teams that have signed these players. Some of them haven't worked out. One of them was a Red Sox, Rusney Castillo. He's still in the minors. But nonetheless, that interests me. Also, you have the international factor of the Red Sox being that Alex Cora, their bilingual manager, the guy that represented Puerto Rico in the World Baseball Classic, is one of the most respected managers in the game, one of the best managers in the game, for sure. Won World Series already to his name in 2 seasons. He's not going anywhere. Whatever GM they bring in, Alex Cora is as safe can be. This season did not reflect bad on Alex Cora. This season reflected bad on Dave Dombrowski, which is why Dave Dombrowski is out of a job. Dave Dombrowski nailed 3 nails in his coffin. The first one was his willingness to sign a pitcher with known elbow issues from the season prior to a 5-year deal while his current contract was not even up yet, and Chris Sale. The Red Sox did not need to extend Chris Sale this season. They could have waited it out. They made the extension out of fear that Sale would pitch really well again and he'd walk. Well, so what? We already have the highest damn payroll in the game. That in and of itself is the problem. Not the players. It's the players and the fact they're getting paid too damn much money. That's the problem. David Price, Chris Sale, Nathan Eovaldi. These are contracts that Dave Dombrowski signed as recently as last year, this year, or a few years ago. And that is not good. Not good at all. Rick Porcello's a goner, rightfully so. One of the most inconsistent pitchers of 2019. One of the most inconsistent pitchers, period, who had a great 2018. It's as if they paid these players for one season that had already passed. And sometimes in baseball, the worst thing that you could have to a player is an allegiance to a player based on what they did for you the season prior. Granted, they were really damn good last year. Everything went their way, but sometimes one year, one thing goes your way, everything goes your way, then the next year, one thing won't go your way, then nothing goes your way. And that is exactly what we're talking about with the Boston Red Sox. Are the Red Sox a bad team? No, they are not. They just need a lot of work. They really took an off season off. Dave Dombrowski looked at the team and said, well, we're the World Series champs. I don't need to make a move. What? Meanwhile, the other 29 teams in the major leagues are all making moves. That's why you don't have a job. When you take a day off, when you're not supposed to, you get in trouble. When you take your job off the whole time you're supposed to be working, that's when you get into trouble. When you say, well, our bullpen's fine, we'll be fine. No! We lost Craig Kimbrell, one of the most dominant closers post-Mariano Rivera. Is that fair to say? Yes, it is. Check the numbers. Check the numbers. We lost Joe Kelly, who was a dominant setup man in the postseason for the Red Sox. Boston did not want to pay him. Not that they didn't want to pay him, they couldn't. They knew what was on the horizon. Or Dave Dombrowski also knew what he was going to do with the money that they had. He was going to overspend on extending Chris Sale, overspend on extending Eovaldi. Two massive mistakes. Maybe not so much for Eovaldi, but definitely for Sale. And I love Chris Sale. When Chris Sale's on, when Chris Sale's healthy, he's dominant. But Chris Sale hasn't been healthy in a year. Since late October, since he struck out Manny Machado, Chris Sale has not been the same pitcher since he recorded the final strikeout of the 2018 World Series. And it's very unfortunate. These ignorant Yankees fans, if they were in our shoes, boy, if only they were in our shoes, they would have every excuse from A to Z as to why they are where they are. Whereas I'm owning the reason why the Red Sox are where they are. I'm owning it. I'm explaining it. I know why they are where they are. They're overpaying for players, and they have no bullpen. That's it. You'd hate to break up the Killer Bees. You'd hate to break up Andrew Benintendi. You would hate to break up Bradley Jr. You would hate to break up Betts. But we got to get some payroll back in here. We got to get some money back in here. We got to bring in some cheaper players that can get you similar production. It's a lot easier said than done. But if there's any team that can do it, it's the Boston Red Sox. Because let's face it, the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Cubs, the Dodgers still have that advantage over every single team in the majors, and that is that they are the Yankees, Red Sox, Cubs, and Dodgers. And that's it. It'll always be that way. Nothing will change that. History is history. Baseball is history. Occasionally you have your shocking development. Oh, Robinson Cano took $1 gazillion from the Seattle Mariners. Yeah, how'd that work out? How'd that do? Oh, Manny Machado took $1 gazillion from the San Diego Padres. I hope it works out. I like Machado. I like San Diego. I like who they have. I see what they're doing. I like it. Does that mean it's going to work? I don't know. Only time will tell. Last but not least, the greatest player of his generation, as I said earlier, Mike Trout. Mike Trout's going to make $500 million, almost, for the Anaheim Angels, Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, a team with two city names. And this team is terrible. They're not good. They haven't been good in years. And Mike Trout is wasting the best years of his prime on a team that has no future. With Mike Trout, that's their future, their present, and Shohei Ohtani, unfortunately, God rest in his soul, may he rest in peace. Tyler Skaggs, a true loss for that franchise. What a tragedy that was and is, because he was going to be very good. Nick Adenhart, who they also lost, he was a really good pitcher. So I can't really, throw them under the bus completely. Those are things that I wouldn't wish on any team. Wouldn't wish those things on any team. Or any family, for that matter. It's just tough. But back to baseball, and not to get, dark and just sad in here, but the Red Sox will be fine. They got a lot of work to do. They got probably a 2 to 3 year recharge, and that's okay. I'm okay with it. I'm fine. I'm fine. Like Ross and Friends, I'm fine. No, honest, I am. I'm fine. The reason why I'm fine is because I've seen 4 World Series titles. There were people that lived for 86 years that didn't even get to see the Red Sox win 1. I take that into consideration. And it wasn't like the Red Sox sucked for 86 years. They had some phenomenal teams over that 86-year stretch. Are you kidding me? Ted Williams, one of the greatest hitter ever, the Splendid Splinter. Ted Williams, Carl Yastrzemski, Dwight Evans, Jim Rice, Wade Boggs, Fred Lynn, Roger Clemens. You can go on and on. Louis Tiant, Carlton Fisk. Come on, really? Really? I think the Red Sox are woven in the history of baseball just as much as the Yankees are, obviously. And those are the lifeblood of baseball, those two franchises. It's always going to be that way. Whether you're on the left or the right, left with the Yankees, right with the Red Sox, you know that you're a part of something. You're a part of history. You're a part of something special. And the Yankees got questions too. I mean, the Yankees are not this finished product, and I don't give a damn if the Yankees win the World Series or not. They still got the questions that they have right now. As did the Boston Red Sox when they won it last year. You knew what was going to take place. You knew that Craig Kimbrell was a goner. You knew that Joe Kelly could be a goner. You knew that Mookie Betts could possibly become a free agent if they didn't sign him. This is not the average day and age of baseball. This is a very different day and age of baseball. You have players making more money than any player has in any sport. So it's literally not your everyday situation. Is any player on the Boston Red Sox worth that right now? No, because they're already paying players way too much money. Is Aaron Judge worth $300 million? No. No player is worth that much money. It's just the market. When one player gets paid X amount, the next player is up for contract, that number goes up, that player meets that number, and so on and so forth. Gone are the days where A-Rod made $250 million. That $250 million contract looks so small now. That $275 million contract looks so small now. What a time, what a day and age that we live in as sports fans. What a day and age that these athletes live in that make the money that they make, only to refuse to go to the White House. I'm sorry. I'm throwing that in there too. Why not? You're on the left or right, whatever political opinion you have. You could think that the president is the biggest piece of garbage on the face of the earth. That's your opinion. That's your right as an American to think that. But you at least respect the office. At least respect the office. At least respect the country. That's my opinion on that. And that's all I'll ever say about it. I was disappointed when I saw that certain Red Sox players didn't go to the White House. I really was. But that's another topic for another day. I'm Ryan Thomas. My take on the Boston Red Sox decision to fire former president of baseball operations, Dave Dombrowski. Dave did a pretty decent job, but his time was up. Time to transition. Time to move. Got to move. Got to make money moves. Get some money back to spend some. Get some money back to spend some. Get some players at a lesser price that can bring you very similar production. They're out there. This is baseball. It's happened before. It's been proven. It can happen again, and it can be proven. Your move, Boston Red Sox. Follow the Thomas Take Sports Podcast on Twitter at Ryan Thomas Take. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And also, hit that follow button. Come on, hit it. Just hit the button. Go Red Sox. 2018 World Series champs. Let's see if the Yankees can finish the job. I have my doubts. Good night, friends.